Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from SimpleProgrammer.com. So I got a question here, a real estate related question. I don't do too many of these, but every once in a while I answer a few real estate questions. I'm sure you can find some videos if you're interested in real estate investment or real estate. If you don't know my background, I've got about 26 properties. I've been investing in real estate since I've been 19 years old. Bought my first house when I was 19. You can probably check out a video here or a couple of videos, maybe a playlist on real estate stuff if you're interested in some of those videos. And if you're interested in more, let me know. I'll do some more of them, but I don't do too many of them on this channel. Anyway, this email is from a friend of mine. I'm not going to reveal his name because I don't know if he wants to remain anonymous or not regarding his financial situation. But also, it's funny, if you're a friend of mine, this is how I answer you. I send you a video. I don't reply back via email. I don't give you a call on the phone. I send you a video. So anyway, this email says, Hi John, I want to pick your brain about a real estate related question. This might make a good quick video on Simple Programmer too. Alright. I bought my current house at the peak of the bubble in 2007, and obviously it's still not worth what I paid for it. I'm now thinking about moving and wondering what my best course of action is. I'm at the point where I could probably sell this house and get out from under the mortgage, but I'd be taking a hit on the house overall. It's worth about $20,000 less than I originally paid, and I'd come away with the sale from the sale with no cash out of the deal. Alternatively, I could make this house a rental. It's not much an income property, but I could rent it for enough to cover the mortgage and maybe get a few extra dollars, though any profit would likely get eaten by maintenance costs over the long term. Because the margins would be so low, I'd probably want to do rental management myself rather than pay a management company, so I'd have to consider the hassle of doing that as well. If I could break even on the rental for a while, I might later be able to sell the house for a profit or pay off the mortgage and make it something that would actually generate some income for me. Given your experience with rental property and real estate in general, what do you think my best option is? Do I just need to get out of this house and take a hit, or rent it out and keep it as a longer term investment to hopefully pay off down the road? So here's the thing. So let me start by saying this. So the first thing is that, and this applies to just about any type of investment. So, the only exception to what I'm about to say, or the only caveat to this, is liquidity. But essentially this is what I always tell people is, when you invest, at the end of the day, whatever that value of that thing is that you've invested in, that's where you're at. Whether you've liquidated the asset or not, that you start the day, a lot of people, and the reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of people, what they do is, it's more in the stock market, but it happens, I guess same with houses too, but you see it a lot in the stock market where they buy a stock, right? And then the stock goes down and they hold on to it until they can recoup their original investment. Now with stocks, it's really dumb to do this, because at the end of the day, the transaction cost for a broker is, to make a trade is what, $6? So you're the only value that you're holding on by holding the stock is you're saving yourself the $6 of the transaction cost. But whatever the stock is at that particular time, that's what its value is. There's this illusion in your head that you can hold on to it till it regains its value. But if you understand what I'm saying here, is I'm saying that you have to cut your losses at the end of every single day. Your losses are your losses. They're locked in right away. People think that their losses aren't locked in. Now, the caveat here is that real estate does have a higher transaction fee, and it's more difficult to liquidate. So based on that, there's a little bit of this that you can, it's not quite maybe locked in every day, but I'm using the stock market example just to get that mindset. You still have to have that mindset of, you should always, any kind of investment that you make, you should always say, would this still be a good investment today that I would make? If not, you should get rid of the investment, right? Whether it be stocks, options, real estate, whatever it is, unless there's a very, very high transaction costs, or the liquidity is very small. And if you understand, for those of you that might not understand what I mean by that, is a high transaction cost. Real estate has a high transaction cost because in order to sell a house, you're going to have to usually pay a broker, right? The standard is usually like a 3% commission on that, and there's closing costs that you're going to have to pay. So it's going to cost you some money. You can't just, a brokerage for selling a stock is like $6 or $13 or whatever it is. So that's a very low transaction cost. And the liquidity, again, you can sell stocks instantly, pretty instantly, right? Most stocks, depending on the liquidity, but for the most part now we have pretty efficient markets. But a house, you can't just like call up and someone and say, I want to sell. You can't put in a sell order and sell a house, right? It takes some time. So there's investment there. So all that is, I wanted to set that as a baseline. So the only reason I'm saying this, and it's a good just lesson in general in investing, is never try and recoup your costs. That's called throwing bad money or even time after good, right? Or throwing good money after bad. You don't want to do that, because you should always be evaluating the investment as it stands right now. This is where it's at. So in real estate, the question you would ask yourself is, would I buy this house now as an investment, given just, if I didn't have it? And if your answer is no, then you should get rid of it, right? And that's the first question that you have to ask there. And some of that will involve transaction fees and time. There's some investments in real estate that I'm holding on to now that I wouldn't buy today, but my time is like in order to liquidate the property would be cost prohibitive to me. So I don't want to waste the time, because I can be making money using that time for something else, and then the transaction costs would make it so, well, at least I'm making money from this investment. So anyway, you got to think about that first. That's the very first thing. So in this case, if you can walk away from this property and not lose any money, I mean, that doesn't really matter. It just really matters what is the value at this given time, and where's the best place that you could have your money or your investment. And in this case, if you can break even, then your question becomes, would I buy this property now and rent it out, or would I not? And if your answer is absolutely no, I would never, it doesn't seem like a good investment, then just get rid of the property. And if you walk away from it without any cash, I mean, then your losses are your losses already. Like, let's say you've put $20,000 down into this house. It's gone already. It's already gone. You can gain it back, but you could gain it back by making another investment, right? It doesn't matter where that investment is. And this is the same thing again. I'm hammering this point because it's so important. And again, you see it more in the stock market, where someone says, well, I bought it at 20, now it's at 15, so I got to wait till it goes back up to 20. No, you could pick a different investment and make $5 per share on that other investment. It doesn't matter where that increase comes from. Losses are locked in. I keep on repeating it because, again, it's such an important concept to understand. Otherwise, you end up throwing away good money with bad money, and you waste time. And time is money. So, with that said, now let's move on to the decision of renting the property, assuming that, or evaluating whether it is a good investment. So, in order for a rental of a property, in my opinion, to be a good investment, it only really has to have one condition met, which is that you will gain, the rent that you get will pay for the acquisition, the holding costs of the property. If that is the case, it is a good investment. Doesn't mean it's the best investment, doesn't mean it's a great investment, but it means a good investment that you will not regret, that is going to help make you wealthy someday, better than most people's choices make. So this is better than putting money in the bank. It's better than investing in the stock market. If you can find real estate where the rent is going to pay the mortgage, essentially, it doesn't even have to put extra money in your pocket, but you should have a buffer, and make sure you do have a buffer so that it floats, what I call floating. That's going to be a good investment, because in worst case scenario, 30 years down the road, you're going to have a property paid off that you didn't have to do anything to do. Think about it as this bank account that just keeps on growing as your tenants pay you rent. Now, there's the caveat to that, which is that it depends. The other piece of this is it has to float without your involvement. Because, okay, if you manage a property yourself, which I highly discourage, I do not recommend that at all. But let's say that you did. First of all, you're going to have to learn. There's going to be a learning curve, right? And I hate learning curves for things that I only do once, right? And if you're managing one property, you're going to take, there's a big learning curve in renting out a property and dealing with and all of this stuff. And if you're only going to do it one time, you're not going to get the benefit. Now, if you're going to turn in and manage 10 different properties, or you're going to create a property management company, sure, learning curve will make sense. But it's like this. It's like, for programmers out there, you don't want to learn a programming language just to write one app. That's silly. You're going to invest the time in the learning curve to learn a programming language in order to write multiple applications. Otherwise, don't. Just use one that you know. So, same thing with property management. That learning curve. Not only that, but your time, right? So, if you're managing a property, when I manage my own properties, and I did for some time, and it was not fun at all. I figured I was paying myself like a couple dollars an hour is what the value, and I was doing a crappy job at it. So hire an expert to do it. It's hard to find a good property management company. I'll say that. It's difficult. There's a lot of scam artists out there. A lot of you're going to have to be very diligent and do your due diligence to make sure that you hire someone that you trust, and you might have to fire. I fired a lot of property management companies in my day, but that's the way to go, and it has to float with that. So if you can get, this is what I would do, right? I would say, okay, look, how do I know this is a good investment? Okay, what is the value of the property now, right? Or what does it cost me? What's the mortgage? How much am I paying for mortgage? What's taxes, insurance? Add that all up, so total payment. Then figure out how much management fee. I figure 10% of the rents. Get a realistic idea of the rents, and you want to have 100% occupancy, or 90, as close as possible. So reduce whatever the market rent is by 10%. To know what you're going to rent it out, so that you have 100% occupancy and don't have an issue. And then figure about a 10%, it depends on the age of the property, but maybe like a 10% maintenance. And then when you factor that all in, if your number comes to zero where it floats, good, then it's going to be a good investment. And if it comes to where you're putting some money in your pocket, then it's going to be a great investment potentially. So that's the factors I would consider in doing that, but I would not attempt to manage a property on my own. It's going to create a big headache for you unless you're going to go down this road. And and I do have a friend that does manage his own properties, and he's got a bunch of them, and he's learned how to do it. I still think that, for your time, I think if he added up his time, he would find that he's actually probably losing money on the deal. Like, it's better to pay someone to do it. To me, it's like mowing your own lawn, right? Like, there's a point where mowing your own lawn makes sense. When you're working at McDonald's, no offense if you're working at McDonald's, but mowing your own lawn makes a lot of sense, because you're actually earning more money, or an equivalent trade by mowing your own lawn. But if you're at a job making $50 an hour, you're a freelancer, an entrepreneur, and your time is valuable, and you could use that time to make more money, mowing your own lawn doesn't make sense. It's the same thing with property management. Like, you don't want to manage your property doing a crappy job at a job that is someone else could do better and is going to cost you a lot of money, and your time is more valuable spent somewhere else. So anyway, a lot in there. Hopefully you got it all. If you guys are listening, if you have questions specifically about some of these things I talked about in real estate, if you're interested, I don't want to say I'm going to do something on real estate because I've got a lot of things queued up here. For the next year, I'm going to be the next big product is going to be on entrepreneurship. I'm going to be creating a course on that. But I will possibly do some more videos on real estate, and maybe in the future, maybe in a year or two, I could talk about investing. You can of course always get my book, Soft Skills Software Developers Life Manual. It talks about my story in there, and I do have some chapters on real estate investment and investing in general, if you're interested in that. And hopefully you found that useful, and give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care.